أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا ما يهدي الله فلا مضل له وما يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, we praise Him, we seek His help, we seek His forgiveness, and we seek the protection of Allah from the evils in our hearts and from the evil things that we might be tempted to do. He whom Allah has guided, none of us can lead him astray. But he whom Allah has led astray, none of us can lead him back to the right path. I bear witness that none has the right to be worshipped by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has no partners, and I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his slave and his messenger. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. Or you truly believe of taqwa to Allah as is his due and do not die except in the state of Islam, which is a state of complete submission and surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. O mankind, have taqwa to Allah, who has created you from a single soul, that is Adam, peace be upon him, and from him Allah has created his wife, and from both of them Allah has dispersed into many men and women. And have taqwa to Allah, which by using his name you have made many requests and demands for one another and maintain the bonds of kinship. Indeed, Allah is ever over you an observer. O you truly believe of taqwa to Allah and speak always the truth. If you do so, Allah will direct you to do good righteous deeds, and He will forgive you of your sins. And whosoever obey Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would have achieved a great achievement, that is being admitted into paradise. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كلام الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. To proceed on, the best of the speech is the speech of Allah, which is in the Qur'an. The best guidance is the guidance of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The worst thing in Islam is the introductions of new elements in faith, and every newly invented matter is an innovation. Every innovation is a misguidance, and every misguidance will lead us to hellfire. As-salatu wassalamu ala khatamil anbiya al mursalin Muhammadin sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And greetings of peace go to our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is the last and final of all the prophets of Allah. Alhamdulillah, we thank Allah for allowing us to continue to live in this world in order for all of us to prepare to face Him in the day of judgment. Right? Now, brothers and sisters in Islam, we are at the beginning of the month of Zulhijjah. Right? We are going at a very fast pace. Sooner or later, inshallah, we are reaching the best 10 days of the year, which is in the first 10 days of Zulhijjah. So do take note about this. We're going to talk about it later in the next few weeks, inshallah, just as a reminder. Okay. Now, the topic for today is something in which a lot of people, somehow or other, they are struggling with life, in the sense that there are things in which they are quite reluctant to do, right? So, for example, COVID-19, right? We have a lot of people who may be not employed, right? And therefore, right, many months they have not been working and all this, right? And suddenly a new opportunity comes, right, in the employment that may be a compromise to Islam, right? But it does feed the family, right? So should he or she take this job, right? A lot of decisions are being made, sometimes on a daily basis, isn't it true, right? Looking for a spouse, right? Whether you should go for holidays and all this, whether you should go work overseas, on many aspects of life, right? So we're going to discuss this, right? This verse in the Quran, in surah number 2, verse number 2:16, right? Actually, it is a verse in relation to the holy war, right, or jihad, right? But of course, it can apply to everything, right, in our lives. Right? And this is for me an important verse, because sometimes we think that, or we made a decision that to us is good, right? But actually, to Allah, we may be doing things to displease Allah. Whereas on another hand, the thing that we may hate to do, right? But actually, it is good for our deen, all this, right? So, and the most important thing, brothers and sisters, that we need to know that only Allah knows the future, right? Because we understand Ayatul Kursi, يَعْلَمُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُم. He knows what is in this world and what will happen in the hereafter. He knows everything. He knows everything has been determined by the Almighty, right? So this is something in which um, we should have this humility to understand where we stand, right? Um, Especially in the early days of Islam, for example, let's talk about alcohol. People want to do alcohol a lot, drink alcohol a lot in the time of the Quraysh, right? They did a lot of unlawful sex, right? They kill the daughters. For them, it's good, right? It is for the society, for the youth, for the being vibrant and all this. But subhanAllah, in reality, it's really displeasing to Allah. So whatever things that we choose in life to go in which directions, right? We have to consider first: would Allah be pleased with this? Instead of just plunging into this new thing, right? Or if anything happened in our lives, it may be bad, right? But perhaps, as I said to you, that on many levels, for example, right? Perhaps, inshallah, you and I are destined to go to Jannatul Firdaus, which is a 100th level, right? But perhaps the thing that we did in life, in terms of our prayer, our fasting, helping others, helping the poor, teaching others, it may not be enough to go to Jannatul Firdaus, right? Maybe only the most, it is level number 75. We got 25 levels left, and each level is as high as the earth and the sky, right? And when things happen to us, and perhaps when we are patient, right? And these patients, inshallah, are the ones that will make us jump from 75 to 100, right? So the things that we dislike, perhaps it is good for us. And the things that we like, perhaps it is bad for us, right? So we turn to surah number 2, verse number 216. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. وعسى أن تكرهوا شيئا وهو خير لكم وعسى أن تحبوا شيئا وهو شر لكم والله يعلم وأنتم لا تعلمون. Right, surah number 2, verse number 216, right? It may be that a thing that you dislike, right, is good for you, and that you like a thing which is bad for you. Bad and good, brothers and sisters, is in terms of getting the pleasure of Allah, right? In terms of getting, inshallah, to our ultimate aim in life. If our ultimate aim in life it is to get a big house in Chelsea and in a 2-3 big cars, right? Holidays every year to all the expensive places, then I'm afraid then you may have been led astray, right? Because our ultimate aim, inshallah, you and I, is supposed to build ourselves a beautiful home in the hereafter, isn't it true? Which is in Jannah, whatever level Allah has preserved for us. Okay, so this is important, right? And the last part, and it is very important to understand, Allah knows, right? But you do not know. Allah frankly and directly told us, Allah knows everything. What is good for us, what is bad for us. And imagine if we were to live in thousands of years or hundreds of years ago, in which nobody knows about the effect of alcohol on us. Now, and if you were to keep on drinking alcohol, the effect will be so bad, isn't it? In terms of a moral compass, in terms of society, in terms of our own health, right? About how alcohol is able to destroy our own liver. right? So all this was discovered much later, and Allah knows best than we do not know, right? In terms of gambling, right? People think that, oh, it's an easy way to get money, but subhanallah, right? No gambling company would want to make a loss, isn't it true? For sure, right? They will allow you to win first. In fact, now, right, we have all these gambling companies in the online, right? They will give you £30 first, £40 first. Don't worry, right? And they allow you to win first. But eventually, brothers and sisters, right? No gambling company will want to make a loss. They have invested a lot in this. They would want to win. Not, and I'm not talking about winning what after each month, 1,000 pounds. They will win millions of pounds, and that's for sure because gambling is addiction. And if you let yourself go freely with gambling, then subhanallah, right? You'll be at the losing end for sure. Okay. So in terms of unlawful sex, of course, with all these illnesses, with all these unwanted pregnancies and all this, right? We have a limit in Islam, right? And in a sense that we should have only sexual intercourse after marriage. So all these kind of things are the limits that has been ordained by Allah, right? So yes, so all of us in the first place, I mean, as an introduction, we have a free will, right? But free will that we have are not without limits, even in this life. Isn't it true? Right? All of us have a free will. Let's say you have a sports car in London, which a few of the Arabs, a few of the rich people have this sports car in London, right? Well, if you have a sports car, you're in London, but you are still restricted to the speed limit of the city, isn't it true? Perhaps 30 miles per hour, right? And in some places, 25 miles per hour. You can't drive whatever you want, wish to. In the middle of the night, even though there's no cars and there's traffic lights with cameras and all this, right? You can't just dash through the red light because yes, you have a free will, but then you have to bear the consequences of having the traffic fines, right? My area, right, there is car park, but there is also restrictions, right? Because most of the car parks here are for residents, right? Then if you wish to park here in the weekdays, right? I have a free will. I can park whatever I want. Yes, of course you have a free will. Then you have to bear the consequence if the traffic warden comes and give you a parking ticket and parking fines. Then you cannot blame anybody except yourself, right? In the underground, we have this sign, right? Make sure you have a ticket, right? Those without any valid ticket will be fined some certain amount of money and all this, right? And you do see, right, a lot of people when the gates are open at the entrance to the train to the underground, right? People are just going through without tapping the card and all this. Yes, you have the free will, but if the inspector asks you for a card and a ticket and you don't have it, and then you you will have to pay the fine, right? If there are rules in London, for example, in Trafalgar Square, you're not supposed to feed the pigeons, right? If you feed the pigeon, then you'll be fined perhaps maybe £500, something like that, right? And then you say, oh, I have a free will to do whatever I want, right? Then if you feed the pigeon, up to you, but if you're caught by the council authority, then you have to pay the fine, right? So even in the matters of the world in London, living in London, right, or any other cities, you have to follow the rules of the city, right? So like in Singapore, believe it or not, if you litter means you throw rubbish, right? Not in the proper places on the ground, and if you're caught, first time offender, you will get fined 1,000 Singapore dollars. All right, you may be fined, for example, £650 for the first time offender, and you still want to do it because you say you have a free will. Yeah, it's up to you. You have a free will, but then you have to bear the consequences. Even crossing the road in Singapore, right? There must be a more than, I think, 50 meters. I'm not mistaken. I left Singapore a long time ago from the traffic light. If you are closer to 50 meters than the traffic light and you cross the road and you're caught by the traffic police, then you'll be fined, right? So free will is not without its limits. There are boundaries. So with Allah, we are His slave, right? So therefore, that means we have to live by the boundaries of Allah, not for the sake of Allah in a sense, but in the sense that It's for our own sake, isn't it true? Because, like it or not, Allah will be judging us on the day of judgment. We will have to face Him on the day of judgment, right? Yes, we can have a free will, right? Because Allah did say, right? La ikraha fid din, qad tabayyana rushdu minal ghayy, right? In Surah number 2, verse number 255, right? There's no compulsion in religion, right? In fact, the right path has become distinct from the wrong path, right? There's no compulsion. Nobody is forcing you to submit to Allah, but the consequence will be seen on the day of judgment, right? As in Surah number 18, if I'm not mistaken, verse number 29, yeah, where Allah said, فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ, right? Verily, the truth. So whoever wills, let him believe, and whoever wills, let him disbelieve. Right? We have been given this choice, but again, consequences of our actions, we will have to bear the consequence of our actions. Right? You can play all you want on your games. Right? You can go to social media all you want. Right? But at the end of the day, you still have people have your work, you have your school work, you have to do things. You can watch your what is it? The Netflix all you want, right? 6 hours, 7 hours a day. But subhanAllah, right? All this will have consequence, right? On your work, on your lifestyle, right? On your families and all this. Okay. So in terms of Islam, yeah, Allah, as you know, Allah has given you and I Islam, and this is a huge, sorry, not given. Allah have chosen. I think it is a better word for you and I to be Muslims, right? In Surah number 5, verse number 3, Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaikum ni'mati wa raditu lakum Islam adina. Right? This day I have perfected your religion for you. Yeah, I have completed my favors upon you, and I have made Islam as your religion, as your way of life, the deen. Right? So Allah is so merciful, right? He has chosen us Islam, which means complete submission to Allah, and it is a way of life. It's not just about praying. It's not just about fasting in Ramadan, about zakat, about Hajj. It's more than that, isn't it true? How we deal with people, how we'll make these decisions, right? Will Allah be pleased with our decisions? Yeah. When something happened to us, how is our reactions? Are we going to do things to rectify it that will please Allah? So all these things that we do in terms of our steps that we take, there must be boundaries. What is a boundary? Is Allah, right? Allah has set a limit of what to do and what not to do, as I said just now, for our own good, right? Because this must be taken into consideration, right? That when we do anything, when we decide to do anything, right? That consciousness of God, and this is taqwa, as intro, right? Consciousness must come in, right? Is this halal? Is this haram? Right? Should we proceed on with this, or should we not? And all these decisions I'm making, perhaps the things that is happening is not good for us on the surface, but well, it allows you and I to think about this. For example, in COVID-19, right? Perhaps it's not good for us. We dislike it, of course, right? People lose their jobs, can't go out of the house. I'm still waiting for my hair bubble to open, right? Um, and I can't go to the mosque, right? For the brothers, we can't go to the mosque and all this. But on another level, right? It makes you and I to be more reflective, isn't it true? What have we done that Allah allowed this COVID-19 to dominate the world? We surely must have done something that had displeased Allah. Everybody, right? We must have done something that Allah was not pleased with, and therefore we are bearing the consequence now, right? It does make you and I, alhamdulillah, in the house, seeking knowledge like you and I now, we're doing now, right? Perhaps right, reading more Qur'an, right? So all these things, there are a lot of goodness behind it, and we must extract the good things, right? Even though on the surface, this COVID-19 is very bad for us, right? But in the long run, inshallah, right? When you and I, when a lot of Muslim ummah, and even we have, alhamdulillah, people are even embracing Islam in COVID-19, isn't it true, right? And perhaps in the long run, right, it is good for us, and we just need to be patient with it, inshallah, right? The phrase that you and I should use, of course, is sami'na wa ata'na. Right? We hear and we obey. Whatever things that comes along our way, we just say sami'na wa ata'na. Right? In terms of when Allah give us any command, it's not up to you and I to question why. What is the scientific reasons why we cannot eat pork? Why is the reason why we must not, why we don't drink alcohol? I mean, there's nothing, or we shouldn't even raise this question, isn't it true? If we are His slave, then we just need to obey, right? As Allah said in Surah number 2, verse number 285, the second last verse, right? آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك. And so do the believers. Yeah, so we believe whatever has been sent by Allah. Each one believes in Allah, His angels, His books, and His messengers. They say, we make no distinction, right, between one another of His messengers. And they say, Sami'na wa ta'na. We hear and we obey. We seek your forgiveness, our Lord, and to you is our return. So another example, right, like Iblis, right? We know, right? Iblis dislike to do what? In the early days, dislike that another of Allah's creation, Adam alayhi salam, was created, right? And he disliked, right, to be told to bow down to Allah. Had he bowed down, he wouldn't be in this state, isn't it true? Right? So the thing that he disliked, if he were to do it, it would be good for him, because that shows submission to Allah, right? Adam alayhi salam is a similar, right? Because, well, he was not sure whether it is true or not, but he was being persuaded by Iblis himself, right, to eat from this fruit, because if he eat, he would be like the angels eternally in paradise. And he did say, perhaps Allah has forgotten, right? So that's what he wanted, to be in paradise, right? And therefore, even though he was forbidden to eat from this fruit, well, he did disobey Allah, and on as a consequence, of course, all this was qadar of Allah, that Allah wanted to put him on the earth. But because of that, he lost many of his blessings of Allah, isn't it true? Right? He lost the ability to not to be naked. He got to cover from the leaf, right? Because of disobedience. He was on the earth whereas Allah promised him, right, that provide him food, water, and he wouldn't be hot in paradise. But because of this disobedience, he lost all his blessings, and he and his wife, of course, right? So all these are the things in which we have to really consider carefully, right? Our actions, our decisions, right? Or anything that happened to us, right? What is our reaction to things that happen to us, right? So in terms of decisions in our career, what should we pursue this career that may involve riba, interest, alcohol, right? Too much socializing, yeah, with opposite sex and all this. Then we need to consider all this. Is it good for us, right? Perhaps there's another better career, right? That may allow us to, to be more focused on the deen, right? For the brothers can go to the mosque, which is so nearby, but less pay. Which should we consider? Okay, choosing a spouse, and this is the most common thing, right? That in general, some people may like to choose spouse because of the looks, because of the money, right? Because of the lineage and all this. But we know from hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, that we need to choose because of the deen. Of course, right? The looks must be there, that the one in whom you are attracted to, right? But that must not be the determining factor of the decision to marry your spouse. And this happens a lot. That's why, brothers and sisters, right? A lot of, and I'm very sad, right? In the sense that, and I make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will resolve these issues. A lot of people are having problems in the marriage. And I'm thinking about the Muslims, right? The divorce rate among the Muslims, if you don't believe us, as my student or my colleague, right, Brother Saifullah, who is a family solicitor, right? A lot of Muslims are having problems in the marriage, right? Because they did not follow what has been taught to us by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam upon choosing the spouse, and whatever comes from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam must be from Allah. Okay, so perhaps about problems in choosing where to live and types of accommodation, you want to make a decision. Yeah, you want to be in this place, exclusive place, but subhanallah, there's no mosque around, there's no Muslim community, right? And you dislike this place, yes, because it's in a quite poor area, but there are mosques all over the place to pray. And where should your decision be? Okay, or the type of friends that you choose, that you have, right? It does determine, right, the consequence of your or your well-being as a Muslim. Yeah, the type of friends that you have will affect how you perhaps, right, lead a life as a Muslim. Okay, so this is important, yeah, for all this to consider in relation to this topic for today, right? Again, I repeat for those who have joined us, yeah, the topic is in surah number 2 in verse number 216, right? In the meaning, in the second part, it may be that you dislike a thing which is good for you, and that you like a thing which is bad for you. Good and bad, as I explained just now, is in relation to earning the pleasure of Allah. Or there's no point doing things that Allah are not pleased with us. Isn't it true? There are many things that Allah is not pleased with us, right? If we were to do it, Allah would not be pleased with us. Then why should we proceed on with this choice of our decision, right? And Allah said, Allah knows, but you do not know. Okay, so what are the guiding principles that we have to consider now in when we want to look at this verse, right? First of all, Allah is the ultimate lawmaker and decision maker, right? So whatever decisions that we make, therefore, it must be accordance to how Allah wants it to be. How do we know from where? From the Qur'an, from authentic hadith, isn't it true? That's what Allah said. You have read all this in surah number 2, verse number 2. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This is a book. There's no doubt about it. This is a guidance. Guidance for who? Guidance for those with taqwa. Those who are God conscious, then you get guided. Okay? So, and Allah also said, right, in surah number 33. Okay, if you have the Quran, then to surah number 33 in verse number 21, right? لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرِ وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا. Right? Indeed, in the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you have a good example to follow for him who hopes for the meeting with Allah and the last day and remembers Allah much. Right? So, as a guiding principle, right, the first one, you must understand that Allah is the ultimate lawmaker and decision maker. And therefore, everything that we do, it must be in accordance to what pleases Allah. Because ultimately, like it or not, the second part of our consideration or guiding principles of that verse in surah number 2, verse number 216, second guiding principle, everything will have to be accountable to Allah on the day of judgment. Right? Nothing, no stones, no, as they said, no stones will be left unturned. Isn't it true in surah number Was it Zalzalah, surah number 99, verse number 7 to 8. فَمَا يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَا يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. Whosoever does good things, right? Even for the size of in the size of an atom shall see it on the day of judgment, and whoever does an evil, even equal to the size of an atom, shall see it. Right? Everything will be judged on the day of judgment. Okay, and we also have been informed in the last verse that was revealed in the Qur'an in surah number 2, in verse number 281, last verse that was revealed. So it's very important that you and I know about this verse. It's true. وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا تُرْجَعُونَ فِيهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ ثُمَّ تُوَفَّى كُلُّ نَفْسٍ مَا كَسَبَتْ وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. And be afraid of the day, when you shall be brought back to Allah, then every person shall be paid for what he has earned, and they shall not be dealt with unjustly. Right? So you have to be careful, be afraid, and because everything will have to be accounted for. Okay, and we can also see the advice of Luqman. Luqman was a wise man, right, whom he gave to the son, right, in surah number 31, in verse number 16, in the meaning, right? Oh, my son, if it will be anything equal to the weight of a grain of mustard seed, and though it is in a rock, or in the heavens, or in the earth, Allah will bring it forth. Right? Verily, Allah is subtle, right, well aware of the place. So everything will be accounted for. Everything will be brought forward, to be accounted for on the day of judgment. That's why we need to do this thing called what? Al-muhasabah, which means to keep account of what we do. Okay? Now, the guiding principle number 3. Our nerves. Sorry, it's quite warm here because I can't switch on the fan because of the sound. Couldn't open the windows because of the noise outside, and it affects the sound, right? So sorry if I have to once in a while fan myself, right? Now, the third guiding principle which you and I must know, our nerves itself, right? Our nerves itself, right, is always inclined to do evil unless Allah is guiding our soul in surah number 12 in verse number 53, right? So if we open the Quran in surah number 12 verse number 53 in the second part, inna nafsa la'ammaratum bisu'i illa ma rahima rabbi inna rabbi ghafurur rahim. Right? The self, the human soul, right, the human self is inclined to do evil, and we discussed this many times, except those whom when my Lord bestows his mercy. Verily, my Lord is often forgiving, the most merciful. Every one of us has this inclination to disobey Allah. Right? That is why we have to always purify our soul, right? By doing our salah, by continuously ask for forgiveness from Allah for our shortcomings, by doing dhikr morning, evening. So all this serves to purify our soul in order for all of us to be able to submit ourselves, and so that Allah will shower us with his mercy, right? And so in order to seek Allah's guidance through his mercy, we need, as I said, besides doing all this, we need to seek knowledge. That's what we are doing now. How to purify the soul, how to make Allah pleased with us, how to not disobey Allah. We did discuss before what is major, minor sins. All this is in relation to seeking knowledge, right? And of course, we need to seek his forgiveness constantly. All right. Now, number 4, right? The number 4 guiding principle, right, regarding the verse in surah number 2, verse number 216, is this, right? That guidance and counsel and everything, it is all from Allah, right? So, for example, as I said just now, right, in terms of looking for a spouse, right? A lot of people has compromised the hadith. The hadith was very clear. Prophet Muhammad said in hadith, I think from Bukhari Muslim, right? The Prophet Muhammad said, a woman may be married for 4 things: the wealth, the lineage, the beauty, and her religious commitment. Seek the one who is religiously committed, May your hands be rubbed with dust. That means may you be prosper. That means if you don't choose the deen, you will not be prosperous in terms of how you lead a daily lives, right? Remember, and we're going to talk later, our purpose in life, it is to worship Allah. So with the wife or the husband that we have, it should help you and I in this purpose of life, which is to worship Allah, right? You will be in such a loss if you choose a spouse which has no or little deen, right? Because how are you going to bring up your children? Remember, for the father, you are the shepherd of the family. You will be responsible for the outcome of the family in the Jannah to a certain extent, right? For the mother, right? If you do not allow your wife to seek knowledge in the mosque, right? If you choose a wife that has completely, right, no inclination to the deen, right, or less knowledge of the deen, how would the wife be able to nurture the child, right, to love Allah, to know Allah, to be able to submit to Allah, right? There will be a big gap in terms of the knowledge, right? And you have to blame yourself, right? So finding a spouse with um, reasonable, right, reasonable Islamic knowledge is very important, right, brothers and sisters, so that you are able to understand, right, that the ultimate aim, right, it is to seek Allah's guidance, right? And even before you do that, right, what should you do before you marry your spouse, or even before you decide that okay, this is I want to marry this one? You need to pray the istikhara prayer, isn't it true? Right, that where you seek Allah's counsel, right? Beautiful dua that you will say, do two raka'ah, and you say some. Just read the dua, perhaps even in English, right? And asking Allah for counsel, and you need to really look for the signs of Allah, not just in the dreams, but in the events that lead on after that. Nothing is a coincidence, right? Allah will show you whether this person is good for you as a spouse, right? So everything that we do in life, brothers and sisters, is all in relation to getting more guidance from Allah, right? In many verses of Quran, Allah said that if Allah is guiding us, nothing can misguide us, nothing can lead us astray. But if we are led astray, right? Nothing else that can guide us in the straight path except Allah, right? Now, number 5, the guiding principle of this verse, right? Verse number 216, right? Is the purpose of life. The purpose of life must be to worship Allah in surah number 51, verse number 56. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah said very clearly that I do not create jinn and mankind except that they should worship me alone. Right? Our life is not just for fun. Right? We have this purpose in life. We know in Surah Al-Mulk, Allah said, "Alladhi khalaqal mauta wal hayata liyabluwakum ayyukum ahsanu amala." Right? That He made death, created death and life, so that He may test you which one of you are the best in deeds. It's all about doing deeds to please Allah. And we discussed before on many occasions, right? In the last verse in Surah Al-Kahf 18, verse number 110, right? فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا. And those whoever hopes of the meeting with his Lord, let them work righteousness, right? And in the last bit, right, Allah said, and do not associate anything in worship from his Lord, right? So this is important, right? That you and I, right, we must know the purpose of life. It is to do things to please Allah, right? To so that Allah are testing us, which one of us are best in deeds, right? That everything that we do, it is for the purpose of Allah and to get a good place in the hereafter, right? In another verse, in Surah number 44, verse number 38 to 39, in the meaning, right? And we created not the heavens and the earth and all that is between them for mere play. Everything is not created just for fun. There is a purpose, right? We created them not except with truth, right? That means to examine and test those who are obedient and those who are disobedient, and then reward the obedient ones and punish the disobedient ones. That's what Allah means. But most of them do not know, right? The whole world is not just for fun. There is a purpose in life, right? So in relation to the topic for today, right, it may be that you dislike a thing that which is good for you and that you like a thing which is bad for you, right? Goodness, whether it's good or bad, and we must take it in accordance to what Allah preferred us to do and to have. If there is a choice between two things, two careers, right, two way of life, one would lead to, well, less enjoyment in this world, but more um, closeness to Allah. Whereas another one, right, is completely enjoyment of life in this world, right, but far away from Allah. Then we should know where we want to be, right? Which direction in which we want to take. Okay. Now, the next one, number 6, right? The good qualities to possess, right? In order to know what decisions to make, right? We must possess several of these qualities. First of all, is of course patience, right? Inna Allaha ma'as sabirin, right? Allah is always with the patient. In Surah number 2, in the verse number 153, right? Wallahu yuhibbul sabirin, right? That Allah loves people who are the patient, right? So there are things in which we need to be patient, right? When things happen to us, right? Well, it may not be good for us, perhaps for now, but again in the future, perhaps it may be better, right? Perhaps if I were to choose a path in life, it's so difficult at this moment, right? With COVID-19 and all this, but I have to be very patient, right? Don't take any jobs just like that, just because at the moment I need to feed the family. But it's haram. Even it's haram, you still take it, because remember, if you have haram income, what happened to your dua? The dua is not answered by Allah. So do be careful in this. Okay. So this is the first thing, to be patient. Yeah. Number 2, trust in Allah. All of us, yeah, all of us, we are given many stories in the Quran, right? In order for all of us to reflect the stories of the mother of Musa alayhi salam, right? How she trusted Allah, right? Putting Musa in the basket was floated, and eventually Allah returned back as promised to her, Musa alayhi salam, right? In terms of people of the cave, right? They trusted Allah, right? Because they wanted to worship Allah. They ran away even from the loved ones, from the family, because they couldn't stand, right, this idol worshipping and all this. They ran away, right, and Allah helped them. So all these stories, they were mentioned a lot in the Quran. So as in Surah number 65, sorry, and all of us have known this surah before, in verse number 3, right? وَيَرْزُقُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ الْحَسْبُهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بَالِغُ أَمْرِهِ قَدْ جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدْرًا, right? And he will provide him from sources he could never imagine, right? And whosoever puts his trust in Allah, then he will suffice him, then Allah will accomplish his purpose. Indeed, Allah has set a measure over all things. If you trust Allah, yeah, Allah knows everything, right? It may be difficult for us, of course, right? There is a lot of things to swallow in terms of the conditions we are now, right? Perhaps the things that we dislike, right? In terms of our work, in terms of our school, in terms of our way of life, where it's just average, right? We're not living in a rich area, rich man's land in Chelsea, in Kensington. Yeah, but so what? Right? Perhaps if you want to choose that kind of lifestyle, it may be displeasing to Allah about the things that we earn, right? Perhaps we may have less time to worship Allah. There would be missed prayers. There would be things that we deal with, haram things that may be displeasing to Allah. Okay, so trust in Allah. So, for example, Ayub alayhi salam, when he was the prophet that has all this illness, Allah took away his family first, I think, right? And then his wealth is either one of these come before: wealth, family, and of course his health. And he trusted Allah, right? And finally, because of his patience, yeah, Allah made him recover and Alhamdulillah, right? He gained back everything, right? In fact, it was quite moving when he was given this, because Allah took his family away, right? The children all died, right? Allah gave him an option, right? Would you want your children, this is from Ibn Kathir, right? Do you want your children to be returned to you now, or do you want your children and your family to remain, and you meet them in Jannah, but you're gonna get new families? Now, subhanallah, beautiful choice actually, right? You want your children now, then they have to go through all the tests and all this, but you will meet them in Jannah. And he chose the second one. Sad for him, of course, because he wouldn't be able to meet his family until the day of judgment and beyond that, right, in Jannah. But at least they're in Jannah. They are safe there, and they don't have to go through the trials and tribulations that you and I are going every day on a daily basis, right? And he chose the first option of being given a new family. Right, difficult choice to make, but subhanallah, right? It's beautiful how it was portrayed and how Allah rewarded him for his patience. Okay, now the next one is to understand that Allah is the ultimate planner in our lives. You and I can plan and plan and plan, right, about our choice and career. And I told you last week, right, how I wanted to be a solicitor for clinical negligence, right? That I was so confident, right, that I will get this job very easily, right? No problem, because I was a dentist. I was able to know medically. I was medically knowledgeable about things. I have all these criteria, inshallah, with Allah's will, of course, to be a good solicitor for medical negligence, right? Didn't work. I think went for 3 or 4 interviews, waited for a long time, and I didn't get it at all. Devastated, of course. Confidence blown, yes, of course, right? Doubtful of Allah, not really, right? But disappointed, of course, right? You prayed, but eventually, subhanallah, as I said last week, right? Then I know Allah's reason why Allah did not give me this job as a clinical negligence solicitor, because it involves a lot of riba, a lot of interest for these people who have been are doing claims against the doctors, NHS, and all this. A lot of interest. Can you imagine if I were to be, Allah were to give me this, then every day in my work, my income is very big doubt whether it's halal or not. Isn't it true? Right? And now I understand, alhamdulillah, but not before. I had to be very patient to understand all these points, to trust Allah, to do this. It's not easy if you are experiencing this, no jobs for a while, right? Your ego knocked down the drain, right? Your confidence also, right? And I had to compromise by taking all these menial jobs of a legal work and all this completely low pay and all this. I didn't understand then. Honestly, I didn't understand why I did not get the job. Again, right? This was quite epic, quite appropriate for the title today, right? Surah number 2, verse number 216, right? It may be a thing that you dislike is good for you, and that a thing that you like is bad for you, right? So the thing that I disliked was doing all these horrible jobs, very low pay. People asking me to make coffees for them and tea and all that. I was bullied and all this, I mean, non-British and all this, right? It was quite bad, right? I disliked that, but in the long run, and I know it's good for me, right? I love to be this high-profile medical negligence solicitor. You are, going to court and all this, and that was actually bad for me. So this is how I feel, by sharing with you the experience that I have, right? And as I said last week, about 18 months without any proper job, not much jobs anyway. And that was how Steps of Allah started, right? It seems very bad, no jobs and all that, but that's how I started to seek knowledge. I had to go. I went to Edinburgh. I went to Birmingham. Slept there for a few days. Attended classes because a lot of lecturers came from Saudi Arabia. A lot of good lecturers came, and all this started the foundation. Even Alhamdulillah, I had my foundation in Singapore and all this, but it helps a lot in my development of how to teach and what are the things that people are looking for here in terms of knowledge, right? 18 months of no job, very bad. But in the long run, is good because inshallah it will cover me for the hereafter. I mean, that is all what we are looking for, isn't it true? That the hereafter is taken care of, that we are investing our time, our effort for the hereafter, right? So a few times, for example, right, people are offering me money to teach their children or to teach them about the deen. I remember, yeah, people from Birmingham, all these places wanted to pay me money. I said, no, I won't accept any money. Why should I accept money? Because this I'm doing for free, right? I don't want to change my intention, right? So this is the things in which perhaps the things that many people may not be like me, right? Because oh, they have put in because when there's no money, there's no motivation, and there's no motivation, that means there's no effort for them, and a lot of people are like this, and it's quite sadly to say, right? But I'm not like that. I have been trained, alhamdulillah, Allah, and from my parents and all this, from my great grandparents and all this. We have never charged people to teach them about the deen. I mean, it's something unthinkable, right? Everything is from Allah, and we only hope to get the reward from Allah. We only hope that Allah accept our deeds. That's all we wanted from Allah, right? To give us a place in Jannah, direct route, not transit in hellfire, right? So this is it, right? About the purpose of life. Sorry, about the Allah is the best of planner. Sorry, right? That we have to really trust, right? That our path in life is not ultimately um, planned by us. We can plan all we want, but ultimate decision is all from Allah. How we are going to lead our life. Honestly, right? If you were to ask me about 20 years ago, before I came to UK, and if I were to know that 20 years later I'll be teaching like this, it is not in my mind. I mean, I came here honestly from Singapore because I want to run away from the materialism there, where I couldn't even breathe to seek knowledge and all this. I want to come out from that place just to see how it is like to be here, not to teach, not to do. But again, this is where Allah is the ultimate planner of how I lead my life, right? To help others for the sake of Allah. Okay. Now, in Surah number 12, in verse number 111. Okay, so talk about Yusuf alayhi salam as in the part of Allah is the best of planner, right? Yusuf alayhi salam, as you know, right? Went through a lot of trials in which if you and I were to be in this trial, I don't think we will be as good as him, right? Thrown in the well by his own brothers, right? Sold into slavery for a few years, and then seduced by the owner's wife, right? And then went to prison, right? Because he wanted to run away from committing zina, right? All these years of sufferings, right? It's not easy, right? To have this understanding that Allah is the best of planner, because Allah eventually, through His patience, right? He was promoted by Allah, of course, right, to become the finance ministry in Egypt, right? But not before all these tests and trials that he had to undergo through. Right, that is why in Surah number 12, Surah Yusuf, the last verse 111, in the meaning, yeah, Allah said, indeed, in their stories there is a lesson for men of understanding. And we hope, we dua that Allah would make us among these people, right? The men of understanding. That means the Quran, is not a forged statement, but a confirmation of Allah's existing books, the Torah and the Injil and others, and a detailed explanation of everything and a guide and a mercy for the people who believe. Right? A man of understanding would know about the fact that Allah is the best of planet and make dua that Allah will grant us patience and trust in his plan, right? That we are able to completely obey Allah despite difficult circumstances that we may be in. Right? Now the next one that to understand in terms of these qualities that we should have is understanding this thing called qadar, right? Now, if you understand qadar, then it will help a lot in terms of not being angry, right? In terms of anxiety, right? In terms of doing things that might be displeasing to Allah, right? So everything has been written by Allah, and we know, brothers sisters, as a Muslim, right? As part of the articles of faith, the sixth one is to believe with certainty about qadar, about everything has been written by Allah. The first thing that Allah created was a pen in the authentic hadith, and the pen was asked to write whatever thing that was created in the heaven that would happen to you and I. This was even, I think, 50,000 years before the creations of the heavens and earth. Everything that is happening to us, you and I, had been written down and preserved in this preserved tablet called Allahul Mahfuz, right? That this preserved tablet contained everything, right? How, as I said just now, right? How I wouldn't go through to become a clinical Nigerian solicitor, how I suffered, I did not have to work for 18 months, how right now I am an immigration solicitor, alhamdulillah. So all this kind of thing was written down. There's nothing much. To be honest with you, right? When I was in law school, there was an option of immigration law. And I remember saying, no way. There's no way I'm going to indulge myself in this stupid immigration stuff. I will want to be a clinical negligence solicitor, inshallah. And that was what I made. But subhanallah, qadar of Allah made me this. And subhanallah, for me personally, as in many, as I said, Islam is a way of life, right? Make sure we choose a path in terms of our career that has minimal disobedience or shortcomings in terms of our obedience to Allah, right? So of all the different laws, this is the best in terms of submission to Allah, right? Because some law involved, again, as I said, riba, some law involved, dealings with alcohol, a lot of things, right? But this is the best in terms of submission to Allah. Okay, but if we understand qadar, then we will accept, well, as long as we do our best and it didn't come true, well, it's from qadar of Allah, right? But brothers, of course, and sisters, right? If we don't study hard for exam, for example, then we cannot. Yes, of course, it's qadar of Allah. You will fail, right? Let's say you failed, but in a sense that you should also blame yourself instead of qadar, isn't it? Because it is you who refuse to work hard for the exam, right? So there are some things in which qadar of Allah that you have to accept the blame, right? For example, if I have diabetes, right, and it's getting worse, and I'm still drinking Coke, I'm still eating all the sweet things, I never control my diet, and then in the end, I have no option but to remove my leg, which some people did, right, because of diabetes. Then, well, I know it's qadar of Allah, but it is my fault, isn't it true, that I don't control my diet? If I have high blood pressure and I continue to eat all these things that are salty and don't control my diet, right? Yes, qadar of Allah, right? It may get worse. People may get a stroke and all this, but I do have to share the blame, isn't it true, right? For causing all these things to get worse. Okay, but if I have done my best, right? I control my diet, I did this, I exercise, right? Of course, no smoking, no drinking, and all this, right? And still my blood pressure gets even higher. Then, well, I've done my best. What can I do? This is qadar of Allah, fully. Okay. Now in hadith, it reported from Ibn Abbas that from Abdullah Abu al-Abbas Abdullah bin Abbas reported, yeah, one day I was riding a horse or camel behind the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? When he said, "Young man, I will teach you some words. Be careful or be mindful of God, and he will take care of you. Be mindful of him, and you shall find him at your side. If you ask of Allah. If you need help, seek help from Allah. Know that if the whole world were together in order to help you, they would not be able to help you except if Allah had written so. And if the whole world were to gather together in order to harm you, they would not harm you except if Allah had written so. The pens have been lifted, the inks have dried." Right? So this is beautiful hadith from Tirmidhi, related by Tirmidhi, to show clearly about what qadar is. Right? In general, qadar includes four things, right? Four main things, right? First of all, they believe that Allah knows all things in general and in detail from eternity to eternity, whether that has to do with his actions or the actions of his slaves. Allah knows everything. This is Al-Alim, Al-Khabir, right? The all-knower, the all-aware. He knows everything. First thing we must understand. Secondly, it is the belief that Allah has written in al-Mahfuz. We talked just now, the preserved tablet. It has been preserved there. Whatever things I'm talking today, now is about what? Now is about 401. And I'm still teaching on YouTube, not on Skype, on YouTube. It has been written down, right? So this is the belief, right, of a qadar has been written down, right? Number three, right? The belief that whatever happens only happens with the will of Allah. Nothing happens without Allah's will. There's no such thing as good luck, right? I remember, was it one of my clients or something else told me, "Oh, good luck for working next. I'm going to work more, right? In COVID-19, going to the office more. Good luck, right, for your work." I mean, isn't it better to tell me, "May Allah make it easy for you. May Allah bless you in your work, right? Keep you safe." And it's much better than say good luck, right? So do be careful in what you say. Some people use this thing called cross fingers or finger crossed, right? That things doesn't happen in a bad way. I mean, that is quite form of shirk, isn't it true? So you have to be careful. Rather, you should say, "Oh, may Allah make it easy for me to do my work," and all this. Okay. Now, the last one, they believe that all things that happen are created by Allah in their essence, their attributes, and their movements. So everything happens from Allah. So these are the concept of qadar in which we have to accept it. Okay. Now, number 7, right? In terms of the guiding principles of the verse, of surah number 2, verse 216, right? Know that our final destination is in Jannah, with Allah's will and mercy, of course, right? And we are only in this world for a short period of time, right? We shouldn't be comfortable in this world. That's why the hadith Muhammad said, treat this world like a stranger or like you are a traveler, right? That you will have to leave this world very soon, right? So in the morning, we should lead a life such that we may not live in the evening, and in the evening, such that we may not live to see the morning. And this is how we should lead a life, that do not be too comfortable in this world, right? So even, for example, in surah number 57, verse number 20, right? And for me, this is one of the best verse to that Allah informed us how trivial this world is, right? Know that the life of this world is only play and amusement, right? In the meaning, pomp and mutual boasting among you, and rivalry in respect of wealth and children. As the likeness of vegetation after rain, thereof the growth is pleasing to the tiller. Afterwards it dries up, and you see it turning yellow. Then it becomes straw. But But in the hereafter, there is a severe torment and forgive for the disbelievers and evildoers, right? And for forgiveness, yeah, from Allah and His good pleasure for the believers and the good doers, right? Whereas the life of this world is only a deceiving enjoyment, right? If we know and put in our head, brothers and sisters, that life is very short, it's so transient. Yes, we may be suffering for now, but it's only for a while. Hereafter, even the day of judgment we talked before is 50,000 years, and hereafter is forever. And that is something in which we should aim at, that forever bit. That we make dua that Allah will grant us mercy to have a easy journey in the hereafter, which will lead us to Jannatul Firdaus, right? Now, the last part of the guiding principles of the verse 2, verse number 216, surah number 2, verse number 216, is taqwa, right? Having this God consciousness all the time. We know in surah number 49, verse number 13, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum, right? Where the most honorable one of you with Allah is the one with taqwa. If we want Allah to honor us, then we have taqwa, God conscious at all times. Any decisions that we make, it is all with a conscience of, is it halal? Is it haram? Right? Should we do this? Well, if anything happened to us which is bad, then well, perhaps it is from Allah. May have done something, and all this is very important to have this understanding of this word taqwa, right? And again, in surah we discussed many times, surah number 8, verse number 29. Where Allah said in the meaning, "Oh, you believe? If you have taqwa to Allah, He will grant you furqan." Furqan means an ability to differentiate between the truth and falsehood, right? So this is it, right? These are the guiding principles on how we should do, right? That if there are things that we are displeased with in life, perhaps it is good for us. But if there are things that are we like it, but perhaps the things that we enjoy is bad for the hereafter. And Allah literally said, I know and you do not know. And Allah is informing us that He is the Al-Sasid, Al-Khabir, the all-aware, Al-Alim, the all-knower. He knows everything that is happening to you and I, or will happen to you and I, right? Now, knowing all these guiding principles on how we should deal on with that verse, right? Then we should also be aware, brothers and sisters, of what are the things that may impede us from following that verse. Because that verse is a guiding principle in life, right? The things that happen in our life, right? We may hate it. We may feel that, why is it happening to me, right? But perhaps that thing is good for you. And the things that people are enjoying themselves, are happy about it, and laughing all the time, well, perhaps that is not good for you, right? So knowing, because the first 8 points just now we discussed about the guiding principles, how to make sure we understand that verse, right? The next one, we also should be very aware of certain things. Shaitan, right? Shaitan is to us a plain enemy. In surah number 2, verse number 208, Ya ayyuhalladzina amanu dukhulu fi silmi kaffah wa la tattabi'u khutuwati syaitan innahu lakum aduwwum mubin. Right? Allah said in the meaning, oh, you believe, have taqwa to Allah, enter perfectly in Islam, and do not follow the footsteps of Shaitan. He is to you a plain enemy, right? So this is important, right? Enter perfectly in Islam as best as we can, right? And at the same time, we need to beware of our enemy, Shaitan. Always, Shaitan is always trying to bring you and I along with him to the hellfire. Okay? Now, the next thing we have to be very, very well aware that death is very imminent, right? That we have to understand once the angel of death comes, and that's it. It is game over, isn't it true? That whatever things that we are supposed to prepare to face Allah should have been prepared. Then if we have not prepared, then we only have to blame ourselves, right? So as Allah informed us, right, in surah number 3, right, in verse number 185, right, let me go through it, 3185, right? Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. Everyone shall taste death. Every soul shall taste death. وَإِنَّمَا تُوَفَّوْنَ أُجُورَكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَمَنْ زُحْزِحَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةَ فَقَدْ فَازَ وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. Right? And only on the day of resurrection shall you be paid your wages in full, and whoever is removed away from the fire and admitted to paradise, and we are among these people, right? He indeed is successful. The life of this world is only the enjoyment, yeah, of deception. That means life in this world is a deceiving thing, very deceiving for you and I, right? We only want to have this short enjoyment, and in this enjoyment, we may compromise Islam. We may it's all about showing off, as in Surah number 57, verse 120, right? Mutual boasting, right? To others, what we have is all about comparing our status, our symbol, our symbol in terms of our wealth, right? And this is all about showing off. Okay? So do remember that death is impending, right? Number three, of course, attractions of the dunya, right? The dunya is so attractive, right? It may sway you and I, right, to follow the dunya more than the hereafter, right? So we have to be careful in this, right? In Surah number 3, verse number 14, زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ وَالْبَنِينَ وَالْقَنَاطِرِ الْمُقَنطَرَةِ مِنَ الذَّهَبِ وَالْفِضَّةِ وَالْخَيْلِ الْمُسَوَّمَةِ وَالْأَنْعَامِ وَالْحَرْثِ ذَلِكَ مَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَاللَّهُ عِندَهُ حُسْنُ الْمَآبِ. Right? Beautified for men is the love of things that they covet, women, children, and much of gold and silver, branded beautiful horses, cattle, and wealthy land. This is the pleasure of the present world's life, but Allah is the excellent return. Right? With Him. Right? No matter how amazing this world is. Remember, I think, was it last week that I quoted this hadith, right? It's authentic, inshallah. A size of a whip in paradise is better than the whole world. Can you imagine? Size of a whip is just so that long, that small, isn't it? In paradise is beautiful than the whole world combined. And this is something in which, I mean, why should we aim for this transcend life in this world when we have a better opportunity in the hereafter, and therefore we should invest more in the hereafter. Not saying that we should just abandon the world, right? Because the world is a preparatory stage for the hereafter, right? So we should be moderate in our approach of the world, right? Of course, get a good job if you can. Islam doesn't mean you cannot be a doctor, cannot be a lawyer, cannot be an architect. You can, right? But make sure you don't compromise Islam, right? Now, the next one, be aware of the companions that you choose, right? The companions that you choose, as you know, right? These are the ones who will determine, yeah, how would be your preparations for the hereafter, right? So you and I, we should always be careful that, well, it's nice to have friends who remind you, or who advise you at least. Oh, are you sure you're working? Who enjoy good, forbid evil, right? Are you sure you want to take this job, right? Remember that you are not allowed to pray, or you have to. This job may deal with alcohol, or will deal with interest and all this. It's good to have friends to advise you this, isn't it? Rather than worse, having a friend that recommend you to work in a job which involves gambling, which involves women, which involves in terms of opposite sex, right? Or involves things that may distract you from the hereafter. Okay. Now, the last one is, of course, culture and family, right? That some cultures and families are somehow or other may not lead you, right, to the right path, or may cause you to do things that is very extravagant and very wasteful. Like, for example, in some cultures about marriage, right? You spend thousands and thousands of pounds on your walima, right? Subhanallah, right? Whereas Allah clearly stated about in Surah number 17, yeah, in verse number 26, 27, right, that you should not be a spendthrift. Yeah, that you should always not be wasteful of the risk that Allah has given us, isn't it? Rather than sisters and brothers, rather than spend thousands and thousands of pounds on a walima, which may last only for a few hours, in which you do not know more than half of the people coming, why don't invest in a journey to Mecca or Medina for Hajj and Umrah? Isn't that better? Right? I remember long time ago when this couple was having this marriage, right, in the heart of London, very expensive, and in the end used all the resources, couldn't even buy a house. He could have used that money to buy a house, right? But all this is squandered. I would use the word squandered, yeah, on the walima, which only lasted a few hours, right? Now, so in that verse number 26 to 27 in surah number 17, right? Allah said, right, in the last part of surah number 26, وَلَا تُبَذِّرْ تَبْذِيرًا إِنَّ الْمُبَذِّرِينَ كَانُوا إِخْوَانَ الشَّيَاطِينِ وَكَانَ الشَّيْطَانُ رَبِّهِ كَفُورًا. Right? Which means do not spend wastefully in the manner of a spendthrift. Verily the spendthrift are brothers of shaitan, and the shaitan is indeed ever ungrateful to his Lord. Okay? So that's it, yeah, brothers and sisters. I have, alhamdulillah, right, given you an insight, all right, to this verse, which I repeat again, that it may be a thing that you dislike, which is good for you, and a thing which you like, a thing which is bad for you. Allah knows, but you do not know, right? We have gone through the guiding principles behind this, and we have also stated the things that we should be wary about shaitan, about the dunya and all this, right? And this is the things that ultimately, right, if one understood about this big topic, what tawheed, what oneness of Allah, if one understood about the purpose in life, right, that we should lead this life only to worship Allah, that inshallah would be sufficient, right, to guide us in any of our decisions in life, right? Now, this last dua that I say is beautiful, right? And I did say this dua before, right? Is from Ibn Kathir, right? In which asking Allah, right? The dua is asking Allah to show us the truth as the truth, and the falsehood as the falsehood. Ya Allahumma arinal haqqa haqqa, right? Warzuqna tiba'ah wa arinal batila batila warzuqna ijtinabah, wa la taj'alhu multabisan alaina fanadil waj'alna lil muttaqina imama. Oh Allah, show us the truth as truth and bestow adherence in it on us. Show us the evil as evil and make us stay away from it, and do not confuse us, right, regarding the reality of evil, so that we will not be led astray by it and make us leaders for the believers. Right? It's beautiful dua that hopefully we can memorize, inshallah. Right? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase our iman and taqwa. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us able, right, to obey Allah at all times, right, to have taqwa to Allah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us for any of our shortcomings, for any of our wrong decisions that we made that may displease Him. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help our brothers and sisters who are suffering in Yemen, in Syria, in many parts of the world, and the Muslims who are suffering in the hands of the oppressors, in Palestine, in China, in Kashmir, in India, and all these places. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant all of us Jannatul Firdaus. Yeah, with that, we end this session today. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun alal mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Jazakumullah khair. Inshallah we'll see you next week.